in the name of the Lord. Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. We are all too familiar with the narrative sounding wide-scale support for the LGBTQ plus agenda. The normalization of this agenda is now infiltrating our elementary schools and is built on disinformation that boils down to a simple concept that God made a mistake. Gender confusion, same-sex attraction, and the internal battle that rages in the souls of many is a desperate cry for help. But what if there were forces at work to actually criminalize, demonize, and legislate the prohibition or organizations offering help to those struggling with this rapidly growing social and spiritual crisis? Stephen Black has been the executive director of First Stone Ministries since 2000. He's worked in full-time Christian ministry and leadership with First Stone since 1993. He was ordained with International Ministerial Fellowship in October of 1994. He's the author of many articles and teaching aids, including the new book, Freedom Realized, Finding Freedom from Homosexuality and Living a Life Free from Labels. He is the executive director at First Stone. You can find more about him at firststone.org. And he appears here regularly on the third Monday of every month in the 11 o'clock hour. Stephen Black, welcome to your edition of Revealing the Truth.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here again.
Good to see you. You are in the Oklahoma seems to be the cauldron of some really stunningly amazing things. For when I go back to my corporate days, doing business in Tulsa was different than doing business anywhere else in the country. There were conservative values. There were handshake agreements. I was able to do multi-million-dollar deals with names in the oil industry that you would recognize. We'd shake hands and we would go out, and of course the attorneys would draw up the paperwork, but they were expecting us to begin implementation right away, even though it would take 7 or 8 months for legal to hash out the contractual aspects of it. And we were authorized to deploy resources because of that handshake agreement out of that very highly respected conservative Christian base in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's not the case today in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has turned, and it seems that it is because of its location. It seems that there is you remember the kids' toy where there was a round hub in the middle and all the kids would get around it and you would spin the middle and the kids would go, they'd hold on to the rail, okay? You had to turn the center to get it going. Oklahoma is now that hub that seems to be what's spinning all these other initiatives around, and you, my friend, are right there in the hotbed of it, and that has not always been the case, has it?
No, it's not. It has not. It's an interesting day to be living. There's a lot of ambiguity and messaging about truth, and yet there are leaders that are rising up to say enough is enough. So we are in a very interesting day. In politics, in the church, culturally, the messaging that's going on in all things concerning, the real depth of Christian living and what it means to be a man of integrity and a woman of integrity. And there is such an assault on truth everywhere we go. And it's like the battle lines are being drawn. And we are certainly at the front line of that here at First Stone Ministries.
You know, I want to give people a little bit of your backstory because they may be tuning in for the first time and saying, here's this Christian conservative biblical worldview broadcast, and here's an individual that heads up a ministry that is promoting healing and restoration, and seeing this LGBTQ plus movement as a cry for help and offering help resources to what used to be disenfranchised but now is a franchise. LGBTQ plus is a franchise. It's
Right.
no different a franchise than Arby's, than McDonald's. It is a franchise that there is a central information center, and people are opening up franchises all over the place and providing goods, services, churches, communities, all built around this agenda. And then because it's become so organized, they're now beginning to push legislation and having legislative impact. And they're at a tipping point in the world of Islam, which I've always compared this to, that at 2%, it's okay, they're your neighbor, they're nice people, you get along. At 4%, they begin to organize. At 6%, they start getting a base of leadership. At 8%, they now have legislation and laws of protection. And although from a practicing community, it's still in the lower numbers, from a support community, we've now gone far past the 8% level of influence. That if it were Islam, we'd have Sharia courts, we'd have go and no-go zones, we would have halal meat in public schools, we would have, there's this whole agenda that's a sociological study in the Islamization of the world, jihad through immigration, through naturalization. Now we have this LGBTQ plus jihad of its own.
Yeah.
A war being waged on Americans, a war being waged on biblical values, and it is a war. It is completely like Islam in regards to this is a different kind of jihad. You're right in the throes of it, but you don't come from it from an academic perspective. You actually experienced this lifestyle. You experienced this identity, something that you were, you have, of course, your own story to tell, and it's in Freedom Realized. But what I want to do is take you and put you in the under the microscope of the fact that you have firsthand experience in this world and wrestled with the who am I if I'm not a gay man? What world is there for me to live in if I am not a gay man? And you struggled with this through a part of your life that ended many years ago. And this is not something that's recent. This is a story that has such truth and such value that became a passion, then it became a calling, then it became ordained. Now it's a full-blown ministry, and it's working at the highest levels across the nation in saying, we're not looking to put people through this quote-unquote mythical conversion therapy. This is a cry for help, and for those that are asking for help, you have states where they're saying you cannot render help. It's like saying, I'm defunding the suicide hotline. I'm now defunding the American Heart Association. I'm now defunding the American Cancer Society, because people who need help with these things, we're saying that in this particular area, just because they're asking for help, we're legislating that they're not going to get help. And this is happening in a world that you came out of, a world you're familiar with, and this is a battle which you are fighting at First Stone Ministries. Tell us more about that.
So yeah, I mean, you covered a lot there, Rabbi. But we are in interesting times. First Stone Ministries was founded almost 45 years ago, with a mom and dad coming to the church wanting help for their son because he was at the time embracing a gay identity. Back in that day, it was, politically incorrect. It was certainly viewed by the church at large. Most even mainline denominations at that time viewed homosexuality as sin. It's not the case today. We have a lot of mainline denominations, the Episcopal Church, many even in the Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church, the Presbyterian Church, people that used to believe the Bible and used to have a Judeo-Christian ethic that was biblical, a biblical world, a biblical orthodox worldview on human sexuality. And that's not the case today. And so First Stone Ministries, and the reason why I'm here and the reason why our staff is here is 2 Corinthians chapter 1. We comfort, just like Paul said to the Corinthians, we comfort others with the same kind of comfort that we ourselves have received through the Lord Jesus Christ by the power of the Spirit of God, bringing comfort to our souls in having come out of homosexuality. I came out of homosexuality 38 years ago, and that was, right at the end of the kind of the sexual revolution through the 60s and 70s. I was gay identified in the 70s, and I lived as a gay man up until about 1983, and that's when I completely surrendered my life to Jesus Christ as Lord. I've been on fire since then, because even my conversion experience brought me to a place of understanding what is the real beginning of wisdom from the Bible, and that is the fear of the Lord coupled with the extravagance of the crucified Christ. And that night the Lord said to me, if you do not accept me tonight, you're going to die. Well, that was in 1983 when we had, that summer in Oklahoma City, the new epidemic of the HIV, what back then it was called GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. Now it's, politicized and made to where you can't call it the gay disease, or that the history behind this actually brought this epidemic through terrible homosexual behavior. And that's not a condemnation on the people, that's a condemnation on the sin. And that's what we're about at First Stone. We get our name from the Gospel of John chapter 8 verse 7 that says, let him who is without sin cast the first stone, about the woman caught in the very act of adultery, brought by the religious leaders early in the morning to Messiah to condemn her. And Jesus said, after the accusers were cut to the heart, when he asked them, you who are without sin, cast the first stone, all of the accusers had left. So in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, there was no fact confirmed. And he gave her mercy, and he said to her, where are your accusers? Go and sin no more. But that's the thing that a lot of people in the church at large, and even what's happening with an erosion that's taking place in evangelical circles, in some of the most in some places like Southern Baptist, which I got saved in a Southern Baptist church, they still believe the Bible, but there's an erosion even taking place within the Southern Baptist denomination to bring in this concept called sexual minorities. It's an erosion. But Jesus said, go and sin no more. And when we study that biblically, we understand that that means in word and in thought, not just in deed. And the problem is now we're giving a segue to what is going on in the heart and the mind as being okay under the new ruse terminology coming out of the Gospel Coalition, which is you're a sexual minority group. And this happened a couple of years ago with the advent of Revoice, Loud and Clear, that had the Presbyterian Church of America involved, but also members in the Southern Baptist Church. Nate Collins, their president, came right out from underneath Albert Mohler just 3 months before launching the first Revoice conference. So this is pretty serious. The stuff that you're bringing up concerning the evangelical church, but also the Equality Act at the federal level has already passed the House of Representatives. So this is much more than just a franchise now. They want to actually take the franchise of LGBTQ plus and make it normalized to race and gender. This is the craziness that we are now living with. It's not just an ideal or an ideology that is something that should be accepted, as is drag queen story hours and teaching our children that LGBTQ plus sign is normal. Now they want to actually force the general public to embrace this the same as civil rights, with equal employment, equal housing. So that what that would mean is a church would have to be able to hire a transgender or a transsexual, a person living, a male to that would live as a female, or a female to a man, on their church staff, equal employment. Or if you had housing or property or a business, that you would have to accept these people as normal as a white man, a black man, Latino man. Now we're going to have the transgender or the homosexual, or now even that Q, the queer. That's what they're calling themselves. And they even had workshops at Revoice calling for the queering of the church, and that there's queer treasure in heaven. So this stuff is not being made up. This isn't being an alarmist, fabricating some kind of conspiracy theory. This is the reality in the day in which we live, where there is such an erosion. This is at the place now, even surpassing Sodom and Gomorrah. And we do need to be sounding the alarm, because love sounds the alarm when the house is on fire, and doesn't passively pass by the house and quietly say fire. No, the person who walks in love screams at a very loud tone, and even busts the windows out and breaks the doors down to get the house out of get the people out of the burning house. And that's what we do at First Stone, not so much politically as much as to the church, to be a prophetic voice of right and wrong, but also to give hope. It's a big part of what we do, is to give hope that people can really find lasting freedom if they will continue in the faith, and if they will do the hard work of dealing with their trauma in their history. And there is such great hope. That's why I wrote the book Freedom Realized, is because people can have a actual realization of real freedom. That doesn't mean the absence of a struggle in life, but that does mean not being controlled by a very broken, sinful identity called homosexual, or a queer, or lesbian, or now a transgender. This is not a label that is helpful to a soul. It actually keeps them corrupted, and a little leaven leavens the whole lump. So when you put on an identity label like queer Christian or gay Christian, you are bringing a corruption. And really, Rabbi, it's akin to blasphemy. You know, that somehow you can be a homosexual in thought and lust and be a Christian. That is the exact opposite of what Messiah taught in the Sermon on the Mount. You cannot have a burning lust in your soul and not it be not equivalent to adultery of heart. So this is a serious matter. And what we do at our ministry is we help people overcome this. And we do this also through documentaries and teaching and public expression, public testimony, seminars, conferences. And so we're a pretty busy ministry, and that's what we do today. That's addressing this craziness that is not just a franchise. well, it used to be kind of a nice thing, that we're gonna accept that people want to live gay in our culture. Now it's being forced on the public as gender and race. This is where we're at.
You and I are both very familiar with a particular um, well-versed Christian who has left the homosexual lifestyle behind and committed himself to a life of celibacy because he still struggles with same-sex attraction. You know who I'm talking about. And we've had him on the program before. He's written a great book, and it's very raw, and it's very open, and it's very real that this is an ongoing battle he's fighting, and he considers himself, as he should. He has stopped the sin, but now the washing of the mind, the thought life is where he's still fighting, and he's made the decision to proclaim that I will be celibate because I have not conquered yet. The work is not the work that was begun in me has not yet been finished, and until it is finished, I am going to separate myself from social interactions at that level. And I applaud that. I applaud the transparency and the acknowledgement, and encourage people to, you want to look up that definition of who is it that was gay, who's now celibate because he's, and get the book and read it. We're not going to name him on the show, but you can look at our show log and past broadcasts, and a great guest. And I think this is what you and I have striven for in the pulpit, is that, look, we don't ask you to wear a banner. We don't ask you to wear a label: alcoholic, pornographer, adulterer, alcoholic, drug addict, prostitute, 7 times married. We don't ask you to wear any of those labels when you walk into the house of assembly. All right? And we certainly don't encourage you, the alcoholic, don't bring a bottle with you, because we're not going to have you drinking during the service. You who are a cocaine addict, don't bring your crack pipe, and don't be firing up your little blazer in the pew. You're going to be like we're going to be like Delta Airlines. You have to check your bags at the door. Okay, now you can come on board. Okay, I'm sorry, you can't have that bottle in your carry-on. You can't have that flask. No, you can't have illegal drugs. You can't have this needle in your, no sharp objects. No different than the airlines. Okay, that's how I ran my congregation. Not my congregation, the Lord's congregation. And knew who were engaged in this lifestyle. And as I would welcome them and greet them, because I greeted it was one of the signatures, because as a kid, I had a personal relationship with my rabbi. Nobody else in the community did. I did. This was a rabbi I could call by phone. My mother said, nobody talks to this man. How do you have his phone number? How can you talk to him? But he made me feel very welcome. I trusted him, and he never violated that trust. I wanted to be that kind of rabbi, approachable, that the kids knew, that the kids would run up to and grab my leg, and none of this, no running in the sanctuary. No, run as fast as you can. Scream, raise your hands, be excited about getting ready to go to kids' church, and come up underneath my tallit so I could bless you. You know, run up and grab my leg, and I'll love up on you. And if the people hear me telling you, little Johnny, I'm just so glad to see you and love you, that they're going to hear that over the microphone. It's not going to be not a part of the service. By the same token, that as these couples would come in, I would say to them, you see that young engaged couple right there? They're socially distanced. They're not a married couple. So when they started coming here, I said, you know, during your courtship, a little bit of space. I don't want to see your head on his shoulder. I don't want to see his arm around. Okay? You're not a married couple. Okay? This is something that's we consider the sanctity of marriage of also being the marital bed. We consider the sanctity of marriage being the public display of a couple. Okay? You two are in this period of time. Let's put a little distance. Now, you two consider yourself a couple. Why don't you come into my office and talk to me? And they would come, and we would talk about lifestyle. And do they see it as something? How do they consider themselves biblically? What if they became aware that maybe it was no different? This hierarchy, but it was considered a sin against yourself, which was against the body, the temple of the Lord. It had a little bit more of a weightiness to it, in the same way that drinking to excess is polluting the temple of the Lord. Drugs polluting the temple of the Lord falls into that category, and that is not healthy behavior, nor is it provoking anybody to envy that what you have is something that they want. And I had many who said, you know what, now that I see, I don't want that anymore. Now, some remained roommates because they bought a house together, but they separated bedrooms. They were best friends. There was no questioning they were best friends. You don't want to break up that friendship. You want to have them in Messiah. And it's not an agenda to break the back or condemn, but this new forcing. It's like saying, and I can see Steve Green right now, I'm going to guest on this program, president of Hobby Lobby, being told that he has to hire in a Hobby Lobby store a transvestite, a cross-dresser, a man wearing with a man's haircut, wearing earrings and lipstick and in a dress. I believe his position was I will just go ahead and close Hobby Lobby. There it is. We'll just shut it down. You're not going to legislate our faith. And this is the attempt that this new legislation, I think out of, is it Virginia or is it Oklahoma, that says that pastors have to allow a transgender self-identifying individual to use the restroom of their choice, so that a man can go into the women's restroom in a synagogue or a church.
Oh, thank God that's not in Oklahoma. That is in several other states, though, and you have that in California. You have that, I believe, in Virginia, New Jersey, New York. They're all moving towards this really political identity politics. It has nothing to do with science, because the facts are already on our side. Unfortunately, the American Psychological Association and even the American Medical Association have been hijacked by political activists, and they're not basing their decision processes concerning these political motives on science. They're basing it upon their own internal reworking of the DSM diagnostic, or DMS, the diagnostic manual, DSM, yeah, diagnostic statistical manual for diagnosing mental illnesses. And so they're rewriting a lot of this, and they're adding things based upon a political narrative, not based on hard science. So this is what we have, and now you've got false information that's being propagated in political bodies that is banning counseling, banning therapy in states. We have over 18 states now with the Trevor Project. They're coming out with a documentary that is actually very political in nature, saying that it is scientific, but it's a lie, and they're calling it conversion, based upon this ruse terminology that came out of the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Human Rights Campaign, the gay lobbying organizations. The HRC, the Human Rights Campaign, is the largest one in Washington, D.C., where they're coming out with this narrative that we have to stop therapy and counseling for teenagers. And now they're rampanting it up, that it's like in California, where they have already passed a very similar to HR 5 at the federal level, a Equality Act type resolution. And what that does is that forces universities and education system and businesses, because local ordinances as city councils and county jurisdictions then adopt these kinds of resolutions, even though they're not a law. So then they began oppressing the public and oppressing businesses and oppressing education systems and forcing them into having these what are co-ed bathrooms and showers in gymnasiums, where you have men who, one day he's feeling rather feminine, so he puts on a dress and makeup and says he's a woman today. Now he's going to go into a female locker room, to the bathroom, and to the showers. And people would say, oh, that's ludicrous. That'll never happen. Folks, it's already happening. And people have been arrested for trying to molest girls in these situations across our nation. They say, oh, these drag queen story hours, they're so sweet. And then you find out the background check on some of these men who are dressed as women, which is this caricature of this bizarre looking thing that they call woman. It's not even woman. It's bizarre looking, and it's like the blackface of African Americans. I don't know why more women aren't raising up and saying that's not femininity. That's a caricature that is a perverse distortion of femaleness, of femininity. And yet we have these people that are doing this, that are known convicted pedophiles, reading to our children. This is what's happening in these governmental bodies, like that was in Houston, Texas, that you've got this being allowed in public libraries and education systems to our children, and to normalize this idea even to the children now. Where it used to be, Rabbi, there used to be only 2 places in the United States where you could get hormone blockers and the idea of promoting for the surgery to transition. They call it, transitioning from like a male to female, which is actually, it's just butchery. It's chopping, mutilation, chopping up people's bodies to try to do cosmetically on the outside, which is impossible to change at the DNA level. Now there's over 60 places in the United States where this can take place, and Big Pharma is now marketing these drugs to children as young as 6, 7, 8 years of age, to give them hormone blockers so that they'll never go into puberty, so that they won't develop, and then they make their bodies kind of androgynous, and then they do the surgeries. This is what's going on in our world and culture with some of this crazy stuff. When you talk about these political systems wanting to bring transgenderism and normalization into allowing men to go into bathrooms, and to pass state legislature law to make it to where everyone has to accept this. This is what's going on.
It's so perverse that the American Psychological Association has proposed that sexual orientation diagnosis under the new ICD diagnostic codes ICD-10, which is the new rendition of ICD-9. They released a whole new set of diagnostic codes.
Right.
That it takes out of the mental health category. Sexual orientation is removed from it,
Yes.
so that there is no stigma associated to this treatment. So this can be to remove the diagnostic code out of the mental health arena, meaning that for all the previous iterations of the diagnostic codes, it was considered to be a mental health issue.
That's right.
Now they're trying to take it because, for the one and only reason, is because of the stigma, continuing unscientific stigmatization of homosexuality by health professionals. So they're proposing to remove it. This has gotten out of hand, and
It's tragic because, brother, you've got people who are mentally ill. And I would go as far as to say biblically that there are some of these people that are actually demonized. And you've got these people that are being told by medical professionals that this should be normalized, when in fact this is fact. This isn't ambiguous. This is fact. 41% of these people, even in the Scandinavian countries where there's been total acceptance of this in transgenders, that they still commit suicide. 41% take their lives. If we had this in any other demographic, we would say that it is absolutely should be forbidden. And yet, because of the political narrative of this, we're going to normalize this and allow these people and allow these families to be wrecked.
We're talking with Stephen Black, as we do on the third Monday of every month in the 11 o'clock hour, author of Freedom Realized, Finding Freedom from Homosexuality and Living a Life Free from Labels. He is the Executive Director of First Stone Ministries. You can find more about him at firststone.org. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, there's two particular things I want to talk about. One is the term GHEY, which I've now started to see pop up in blogs. All right, another way to spell gay that does not put it in the normal search string, a way to get away from censorship. Is GHEY. And I also want to talk to you about the American Family Studios' new documentary entitled In His Image, and the message that you have in there about the LGBTQ plus Christian messaging polluting the evangelical church today. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Stephen Black, Freedom Realized. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heart lines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. We're talking with Stephen Black, who hosts this Freedom Realized Hour here, named after his book, Freedom Realized, Finding Freedom from Homosexuality and Living a Life Free from Labels. He's the Executive Director of First Stone Ministries at firststone.org. Stephen, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So we were offline, we were talking about censorship and why is it that our videos continue to play and not be censored, because we tackle the tough stuff, because we are a program that condemns no one. Right? We do not serve a God of condemnation. I am not under condemnation. Right? I am under examination. Okay. Who can go up to the mountain of the Lord? The one with clean hands. God's going to expect my hands to see what I've set them to. If I've set them to sin, there's consequences. There's going to be discipline. If I have set my hands to the work of the Lord, there's going to be pruning to make room for new growth. There's always a cutting, a trimming, always something going on with the Lord. And you know what? You can't tell the difference, like your rose bush, between pruning, right, and discipline, cutting off. It feels the same. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't feel great when those clippers come to it, but yet my rose bushes now are beautiful and full bloom, and they were cut back to this tall. Right? They looked like they were death, just absolute death. But that's the nature of the kind of roses they are, called knockout roses, and that's what you do. On February 14th, you take a chainsaw and you cut them down to a bare nub. And now here it is, 2 months later, they're full of just new blooms and bursting out in full color roses. And this is what God wants for us. He does want a cutting away, a chipping away. It is like, my mind has gone blank with what it's called when your flesh rots, not leprosy, but gangrene. Okay? Is that if you have gangrene set in, it's localized. Okay, if it doesn't get into your bloodstream, you can cut it out, and it keeps you from poisoning the entire body. This is what we exhibit with our sin response. And what percentage would you say, based on your research, is LGBTQ plus a sin response to a shame-based center, a shame-based court? Dr. Mark Baker, Overcoming Shame, says that 90% of our sin response can be linked to a shame event or series of shame events where we have not reconciled the shame and unplugged ourselves from this power outlet that drives sin behavior. This was your experience that drove you into a homosexual lifestyle, was your shame experience.
Right, because you have about 60% of the males, 80% of the females that were sexually molested as children. I mean, the numbers don't lie. In my book, The numbers went down. It was 55%, but I think that's because of this. They don't have to be sexually molested. They can get the most graphic information as elementary kids and be assaulted, and that shame and that darkness enters into their souls. So that is a big problem. And now, we have these trendy things like we were talking earlier about, gay, GHEY, these trendy things that are going on, which is really kind of another way, an alternative of slanging GAY to bring in people that otherwise would not be inclined to homosexuality to try it out. Maybe you'll like it. That is the communication that's taking place in our elementary and junior high schools. So this is being marketed. It's continuing to move forward. As we were talking before, people should ask the question, why are they wanting to remove counseling from children, and teenagers? Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. They want recruitment. They have to replenish their numbers. They can't reproduce, so they recruit children to this mentality. And this is diabolical. It is from another world. It is spiritual, and it's very, very broken, and it's based upon so much shame and trauma that has entered in. I would say high 90% of the people that I have served, and I've been doing this a long time, Rabbi. I've been 30 years in ministry now, helping people. I started full time in 1997. 27 years, or going on 28 years ago, that I've been helping people, overcoming and looking at their histories. And these people are deeply, deeply wounded. I was deeply wounded. I had several years of inner healing and counseling and pastoral care and discipleship in my church. I'm so grateful I had really godly pastors and men that came beside me to mentor me into a place where I was at least healthy enough to enter into a marriage relationship with a woman. So I've been married to my wife, Robin, for 34 years. And, this is what's going on behind the scenes. When people really start walking in liberty and freedom, they are dealing with the traumas. They are dealing with the shame. They are dealing with childhood sexual abuse. They are dealing with pornography addiction and learning how to align their identity and get out of that shame-based place of comparison and envy and idolatry. This is what we do in ministry and helping people overcome. It's never been about condemnation. It's always been about loving people and helping people find lasting freedom. That's why our ministry name is Let Him Who Is Without Sin Cast the First Stone. Jesus in that very picture was, giving mercy to the woman caught in the very act of adultery. This is the heart of the Lord, but at the same time, the heart of the Lord is saying, I'm warning you, go and sin no more, because if you continue in idolatry, you shall not inherit the kingdom of God. And this is idolatry, and that's why we have to be uncompromised in a bold compassion, not in a passive compassion or an apathetic compassion that allows people stuck. That's not love. Bold compassion that says Jesus is calling us into a lifestyle of repentance in word, thought, and deed. Don't take on a corrupt label. Receive Messiah's love and let him do a work of grace in your life to where, yes, for some people, Rabbi, I have men I've been ministering to for decades. For some men with the back and forth, it's going to take, some time, especially if they went through terrible things even as a gay man. So, we're not, slapping a hand on people and say, pray the gay away like they say we do. That's not true. Actually, we spend hours and hours and hours in pastoral care praying, processing, and grieving with people. That's the love of God, and that's why this cannot be censored. If we really love people, we have to care about these things.
As believers, we have to take a stand. The Bible says, what does light have to do with darkness? This is a darkness. This is a present evil.
Yes.
Isaiah says, woe to those that call good evil and call evil good. We look at the story in Sodom and Gomorrah. We look at the offering of Lot's daughters when men came to mate with the angels who were in the form of men. This was something that even Lot was like, he was appalled about. He said he'd rather give up his 2 virgin daughters than let them perform this homosexual act upon these 2 angels who were in the form of men. This is not extra biblical. This is just pure biblical.
That's right.
It's not. You don't have to add to or take away from the scriptures. It's just.
That's right.
It's just right there.
It's really clear.
But I have a neighbor. It's a male couple. He said he's known all his life, and he is a faithful churchgoer. He sings in the choir, very involved, and very open. And I asked him, I said, you read the Bible? He said, every day. I said, are there parts of the Bible that you're uncomfortable with? Are there parts of the Bible that you find you've searched for other interpretations that might support your position? And he said, nope, I've just accepted all along. This is who I am, but I believe in the redemptive power of Jesus, and that when the time comes that if this is not right, that because I've accepted him as my Lord and Savior, he'll forgive me for it and let me enter into the kingdom of heaven. Because I do believe with my heart, and I have professed with my mouth that Jesus is Lord. So I'm not saying absolutely I think it is justified. I'm not saying absolutely. What I am saying is it's not up to me or to you. It's up to God, and that's how I wake up every day, and that's how I go to sleep every night. I said, okay. I said, now we know each other. I wave to you in the neighborhood. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association. And I'll extend the same help to you as to anyone. I'm certainly I wasn't put here to judge you because I don't like being judged. I have a hard enough time with the Holy Spirit dealing with me this way and that way, like right here next to me. But there's a new documentary that's soon to be released called In His Image from American Family Studios, and you are in that documentary sharing your story and perspective, and we only have, unfortunately, about a minute. Just give us a brief little snippet from In His Image from American Family Studios.
Well, it's answering the question and the kind of the ambivalence of what you just described. What is the biblical narrative, or what is really true orthodoxy? What is the heart of God related to everything LGBTQ? There will be an emphasis on transgenderism, and then you've got biblical scholars coming with the theology. You have lots of testimonies. You have people that have come out of transgenderism and have come full circle. And so it's going to be an offering of hope of In His Image, and it's cast with the idea of a person, a narrative throughout the documentary called the journeyer or the wanderer, trying to figure out what is the truth. And so the documentary is going to do a beautiful job at answering what is the truth. And they're working a deal with Fathom to hopefully have it in movie theaters across the United States sometime in the fall. I don't know what the launch date is. They're still working with, all this Wuhan COVID-19 stuff. People are still working on that. But that's where it's coming.
Great.
The website is inhisimage.movie.
In His Image movie. Great stuff. Stephen Black, Freedom Realized, Finding Freedom from Homosexuality, Living a Life Free from Labels, firststone.org. You can find him right here next month on the third Monday of the month at the 11 o'clock hour. We've got to run. We love you. We mean it. Goodbye. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.